Hi there, it's hard to believe, but it's already that time again. I'm Jenny Lee from Lock5Studio, and this is my podcast, Lock5Studio Tuesdays. Welcome, I'm so glad that you're here. I've got a really big agenda planned for today, so let's get right into it. First of all, this podcast is sponsored by Lock5 Fiber Arts and my newest pattern that I've put up on Ravelry. So if you want to find me there, you can check me out at Lock5 Fiber Arts, and you can find me on all the other platforms out there like TikTok and Facebook, Instagram, X, Twitter, as Lock5Studio and Lock5 Fiber Arts. So be sure to go check those out. If this is the kind of content that you like watching or somebody that you know is interested in creative things, be sure to like, subscribe, and share, and hit that bell so that you get notified whenever I post. And I have a playlist going for each of the different types of content that I post. I've got art shorts, and I've got fiber art shorts, and then I've got my fiber arts videos and the art podcast. So you can go check out my playlist and see what I'm posting and follow the different things that you're interested in checking out. First things first, I actually went on a walk just a few minutes ago. I was going to record this earlier today, and it is just such a gorgeous day that I took my crocheting outside and I took a walk, and something came in the mail that is for the studio. So I thought I would just open up with that. I ordered one of these aprons, cross form, pinafore type apron, and I thought it might be cool for the studio because then I wouldn't have the pain of wearing the apron as a halter around my neck. So let's see what this looks like. Try it on. Well, I think I was supposed to get a different one. This was supposed to be the female version, not the male. This is definitely the man version. A little big, but I don't know, pretty comfortable actually. It's got pockets. Could see cleaning in this too. Not bad. On to announcements. It's hard to believe that I'm already headed into the 4th week of my watercolor class that I've been teaching over at Saratoga Arts at the Create Art Studios on Beekman Street. But it already is about that time. So that's been a really exciting experience. I haven't taught in years and years and years. And so this has been so much fun to get out there in person. And at first, the first couple weeks, I was kind of dreading bringing all my stuff and hanging out with 8 other people and working with them to create a painting. I felt a little bit overwhelmed at first, but now that I have got 3 weeks under my belt, I feel so much more equipped to be able to explain my process and to work with students of a variety of levels. So after doing this class, it's kind of been decided that it would be really best to split my class up into 2 different types of classes. So I think that what we'll be doing is doing a beginner class. It might actually encompass several mediums where you take a drawing and a composition class, maybe a value class, color theory, intro to the actual watercolors themselves, the application of the paint to the paper, materials, and all that good stuff. And then once you've taken what I would call my prerequisite class, then I would have you take the ongoing watercolor class to help bolster and support you in the paintings that you're doing. We'll work through your current paintings together, basically. Announcement number 2, my husband and I are signed up to do Albany Worships again the first weekend in May. It's going to be May 2nd, Friday night from 11 p.m. to 1 a.m. with our friends Tabitha and Mark, and we are super excited to go do that as we are every single month. So yay for that. We'll be practicing and getting ready for that in the upcoming week. So I am ready to move on to finished works. I don't always have a finished work in this studio because a lot of my pieces take sometimes days, weeks, or even months to finish. But I had worked on a little commission last week. I didn't even mention it really to anybody. I just started doing it. I didn't bring it up in the last podcast. So I'm going to talk about it now. Essentially, I'm calling it Ladies' Night, and here it is. and it is a combined watercolor and ink. I was commissioned to make this by a friend. Her name is Carol. She was having a ladies' fellowship gathering, and she had asked each lady, there were 8 of them going, she had asked each one of them to bring a scripture that she felt was important to her and spoke to her heart. And so she emailed them to me and said, hey, I would love you to somehow combine these into like some kind of artwork. And so I thought about it for several days, and I'm like, I don't really know. And then this came to me, and I put together a design on Canva, and then I used my projector to project it onto the wall, onto the paper, and then I basically used watercolors in the spiral part, and I used an art pen for the words. Then I made prints of the image, and each lady got to keep one. So that was a really fun commission, and I could actually see doing this as a whole series. Like I could see doing, you know, the Lord's Prayer or the scripture, love is patient, love is kind, and all those. So I could see like choosing a variety of passages like Psalm 23 and doing like that type of thing. So maybe I'll do that, create like a series based on that. So it's not like I need more series, because obviously I'm surrounded by a whole bunch of them already. But that's what happens is I get down a rabbit trail. I start something, and then it like leads to the next thing, and it leads to the next thing. But I don't want to get rid of the old things, and so I have to somehow manage to balance them. And that's where you come in to help me have some accountability. So but this is fun. We use this basically to test printing on the new Fancy Pants printer that we had gotten for the art studio, and the prints turned out beautifully. We're still experimenting with papers, but we will have prints available of my work on the website very, very soon, in the next upcoming weeks, hopefully, not months. But this was a fun way to jump into doing art prints, because even though we've had the printer, we haven't really experimented much with it. We've done a few prints, but this was an actual commission for prints, so it was really fun to get our feet wet making a run of prints. So that is the one piece of finished artwork that I did this week. The other project that I was working on, if you've been checking out my yarn podcast, my Yarncast, is the yarn room has been getting a makeover, and a full on yarn wall. I had found these wire grates on Facebook Marketplace, and I was able to score them for like half of what it would cost to order them. So I picked them up, and my husband was finally able to help me build the yarn wall. And so I spent a few days redoing that room, and it's still completely torn apart actually. So I don't know if I'll have time to get to it before the next yarn cast, but I think so. So we're looking to record in there at the next one. So pretty excited for that. So the other works in progress that I have going on, the same ones that I announced last time. I've been busy with the class and with you moving the yarn room and things like that. So still eye on the prize, all aboard. And then the Milan class. As you can see, the glazes are sitting here waiting to be applied to the painting, but I just haven't taken the time to do it. Now this one here, eye on the prize, what I've worked on that particular piece is color coding, basically the whole thing. So it's probably about halfway done maybe of application of the numbers basically, so I know what number and what color I'm going to be putting on the painting when I sit down to paint. So once I get all the numbers up there, then I'll go through and I'll mix all of my 10 colors, and then it will be finally time to paint. In the meantime, I started a painting for the watercolor class, and I chose to do some flowers that I had seen in Florida on the beach when I go visit my friend in Sebastian. So I wanted to do this flower for a really long time, and so finally I have this opportunity to do it. So I used my projector actually because I wanted to get all of those veins really up close. And this is just the very beginning. I was gonna work on it this week and then I couldn't find it. And come to find out, I'd left it at the studio and I couldn't get in, so I had to wait until it was the next class to get it. And so this week I'm hoping to work on it some so I can give them an idea of what some of my layers would look like, because as of this moment I've only put a little bit of yellow on the paper and it's not very interesting. So I will be working on that this week. I do have some other watercolors in the works, and I might as well just show them to you because I was talking last time about how I had some that maybe had gotten old and not sure if I can work them. So two of them are these flowers. This one, the middle parts here, I forget what they're called, piston stamens, I don't remember. They had masking fluid on them and they had gotten, like the masking fluid had gotten really attached to the surface and I was unable to really remove it very good. But I've worked at it and it's mostly come off, and so this is a tulip painting that I am nearing completion of. So that one is coming along, it's almost done. Mostly need to work values and then figure out a way to work those components that so that the paper doesn't look destroyed, because there's definitely spots where it looks pretty damaged. And I'm worried about even how the paper has had like some paint lifted off. You can see it scratched in spots. So I'm not sure what happened to that, but I'll find out and try to revive it into a painting because I think it's so close. Another one that got damaged because I had it hanging up for too long and I used a hairdryer to dry the petals. And so now I have liquid frisket on here in spots that I don't think I could ever get it off. And so that's this one. So either I need to redo it, or I think it actually goes this way. So I can't remember. So I either need to redo it, or I just need to work with those spots and try to figure it out. And as you can see, it's so close, they're so pretty. I hate to completely destroy that painting. So those are two paintings that I would like to try to salvage. This is a painting that I have only done the drawing of and I haven't even started. It's just the pencil outline. But anyways, it's a smiling face eating some ice cream at Stewart's. So that one I haven't even started. And I am really excited to do a piece that's not a flower, because even though I love them so much and they're beautiful and you can see why I love them, I do want to paint other subject matter, because I think the question I get the most is, do you paint anything other than flowers? And so even though people really like my flowers, I get questioned a lot if I paint anything other than flowers, maybe just, you know, because people are interested to know what else I can do. So I just like painting flowers, which is why I paint them so much, but that doesn't mean that it's the only thing I paint. So I did a commission, in fact, a couple years back of somebody's log cabin, and that was a watercolor. So a little bit different techniques throughout the painting, but a lot of it is similar. So I use a lot of the same techniques to start off the painting, and then by the end, I may be changing how I'm adding texture or using a lot more dry brush. I just may go less wet into wet over the course of the painting, whereas when I paint flowers, I do a lot more wet into wet as for the entirety of the painting if I can. So one more project that I have been working on is trying to create a binder of all of my doodles that I do, and maybe even of my prints. This is one of the prints that we did of an acrylic painting that I had done, and that turned out really well. It's not exactly straight or centered on here, but it turned out really beautifully. So I'm excited to be able to offer these to people. This is technically called a giclée print. And what that means is it uses archival inks on archival paper. and the ink is actually sitting on top of the surface, almost like a painting would, and they're just more valuable, and they are considered like a cousin to the original, not the same as a reproduction, which is just a picture of the original. So we are really excited to be able to offer these. All of my artwork will be available on my website when it is up and running, which it's getting closer. It's just a tedious process to do. This is also a tedious process. I basically have this binder. This way I can take my pieces. I'll know where they're at when I want to reproduce them, but I also can take them places and show them if I want to. Or if I decide I want to frame one, or if somebody buys one and wants me to frame it for them. So this is just one way that I go and show some of my stuff to people. But I had several different binders going, and so I'm trying to combine and make it all make sense. So that's one big project I'm working on. I feel like I have a list a mile long every day of my life pretty much, so, which is true, I really do. I want to head over to my little shout out department and talk about a local artist that I just think is really fantastic. His moniker online is Dark Mountain Arts, so if you want to look him up, that's how you're going to find him. He is on TikTok and Facebook and Instagram. I'm not sure what other platforms he's on, but I'll make sure I put them up on the screen. He's a local artist who's also a veteran who has served overseas in Iraq. He is really notorious for painting local lore, basically. And if you're from the area, then you know, like the Adirondacks and all the lakes and everything is just such a huge part of our existence here. Camping, hiking, kayaking, fishing, canoeing, all that stuff is just a big part of our culture here. And he is really great at capturing the culture and the feel, the vibe of the Adirondacks and our way of life up here. So I just want to give him a shout out. If you haven't checked him out, you should. He also goes around and is at like every art event that you can find locally. A lot of times he's posting how he's traveling and got his stuff in person. You can go check him out, meet him, see his work in person and buy from him. I have several of his prints in my house and I just think they're fantastic. I've given them away for gifts. I just think he's really a great person. So if you haven't checked him out, I would definitely encourage you to do so. He likes to do videos of magic tricks. So that's his other like side thing. I have the yarn. I think every artist has like their little side thing that they do. He has magic tricks. So if you go follow his account, you'll get to see him do magic tricks while he's waiting to pick up his son from school. So he's just a nice guy and he makes really fun artwork. And I want to support a veteran as well. So I encourage you to do so. This podcast, I also want to talk about another artist. I want to go into art history just a little bit each week, maybe. I was heavily influenced by a lot of different artists growing up and over the years, and so I just want to share some of those with you. Some you probably heard of, some you may never heard of, some you probably wonder, why would that actually influence you in any positive way? So surprisingly, one of the artists who actually influenced me growing up was Norman Rockwell. And you may laugh and you may think, well, he's not even really a legit artist. So if you're like a hardcore artist who wears black every day and spends all day at the Met, then you probably are like, ooh, Norman Rockwell. But I really appreciated his work growing up, and I still appreciate it to this day because he had such an ability to capture expression, and he had an ability to capture life and culture in a way that I don't think a lot of people were doing at the time. And there's a lot of like Americana in his work that maybe it was idyllic and maybe it was made to promote feel-goodery or feel-good feelings, but there's definitely a lot of compelling imagery. He has a lot of satire, parodies, thought-provoking. His mastery of the human body and of faces and of form is just really impressive. And he painted from life. He would go get kids off the street and he would put them in his studio and set them up and paint from life. So that's what's always really amazing to me, is the fact that he would paint from real models, real people every day. He didn't try to pretty them. He didn't try to make them more impressive. He just portrayed them as they were. And I think that is a big part of the appeal, is the vulnerability of seeing people, you know, in a fairly natural state in a time when photographs were not capturing much of that. So this is kind of like, you know, pre-Facebook, pre-Instagram. He was capturing candid moments of people's lives and trying to put a spin of humor or even poignant subject matter, getting you to think a little bit. So he was just somebody who I thought was really instrumental in communicating the culture of the United States after the wars, post-Great Depression. He painted for decades. His body of work is prolific. I used to love to go to Rutland, Vermont, because they had this old building that was converted into a museum of sorts, and it just had tons and tons of his work, and a lot of it was reproductions and not originals, but I would just really marvel at the size of his work and the variety of topics. It just made me think that there's no limit to the way that artwork can communicate an idea, the way that artwork can be funny, the way that artwork can be compelling, the way that it can be poignant. And so I really appreciate that he definitely made a statement on society, but he did it with a sense of humor and a sense of wonder and childlike vulnerability. So I'm sure you've heard of him, but if you haven't checked him out, you definitely should, and flip through some of his images. You're going to get to see a slice of Americana that maybe you haven't seen before. The next part of my lesson plan is going to be my sketchbook talk. One thing that really changed my life way back in 2013 was that I was required to keep a sketchbook from the art class that I was taking. I had gone back to school for my master's and I decided to fill out my schedule with some extra art courses. So I took some, and one of the classes that I took required me to have a sketchbook. So I started with this one. I didn't even really know where I was gonna go with it. And my first page is just a little sketch of the Eiffel Tower and some writing. And I did a lot of writing in my sketchbook over the years. I wouldn't necessarily always draw. Sometimes I would paste things in there. Sometimes I would just doodle. Sometimes I would plan pieces out. But it was just a place to write out my thoughts. And so once I had done that, I really liked doing it, and I bought subsequent sketchbooks. And so I bought this one. Once I realized I really liked keeping them, I bought a couple more. I've actually given one of them away, which I'm sad because I don't think they make this exact one anymore. But there's just some really cool things in my sketchbook that I like. Oh, I love this one. This one actually, those took me 2 years to go through each. This one took me 4 years, and the one I'm on right now is actually in its 5th year. I was doing some comic strips of me and my husband. Sometimes I tape things in that I doodle and I want to make sure I save. Sometimes I do a full piece that I really want to actually reproduce. I'll even tape my daughter's old artwork into here if I find something over a list or something, just to have it. It's kind of like a scrapbook of sorts as well. So it's just a way to document all of my ideas. I don't try to do tons and tons of drawings in there. It's just a way to document ideas and paraphernalia and stuff I want to keep. But I do like the nice paper of a good sketchbook, because if I actually want to apply some Sharpies and get a good doodle down, then I want the heavy duty paper. So I'm a big fan of keeping sketchbooks, and let's see if I was going to put them in order. Here we go. And I encourage you to do it if you haven't started doing it. I can't get those anymore. I found these and I kind of like the sturdiness of the paper. Obviously it doesn't have the pretty green fabric cover. I guess I could like do a fabric cover on this. So I bought 3 of them and I started using the first one just for color mapping. In my sketchbook, to tape things down, one of my favorite materials, art studio materials, is actually a frame shut material. This is called ATG tape. If you go onto Amazon or Google or whatever, just type A, the letter A, T, the letter T, G, the letter G, ATG tape. And you will find this really neat double stick tape, but it's not double stick tape. There's no plastic in it. It's just the adhesive. Custom framers use it to put things together. And so I love using it to put things into sketchbooks because it doesn't leave a raised edge of tape. So when I tape something in here like this, I'm not using glue, I'm not using Scotch tape, I'm not using double stick tape, I'm using ATG tape. And it is just my favorite stuff in the world to use. It kind of makes anything you want into a sticker, which is really fun if you have a sketchbook and you work in an art studio. So the ATG tape, I'll put it up on the screen so that you can go and check it out. It is my daughter's favorite thing. I like to throw one in her stocking at Christmas. I buy like a box of 12, and it's always just fun for her to get one because she'll use it in her sketchbook. I use it in the frame shop. I use it on art projects. I use it in my sketchbook. I use it every day, and I keep rolls of it tucked away. I even have it up in the fiber arts room for my crochet binder that has all my projects in it, because I will stick the yarn sleeves in the book with the ATG tape. So this stuff is awesome. I encourage you to get it if you've never used it before. It's not that expensive either for a box of 12, and it lasts a long time. So that's one of my favorite studio hacks. I mentioned how in the painting that I just started for the watercolor class, it's gonna be called Consider the Lilies. Okay, I used a projector. So one of my favorite studio tools is actually my projector. This is my little friend that I love so much. It is my projector. I don't use it for every single piece of artwork that I make because actually sometimes it can be more confusing or more difficult. So that may sound weird, but I do use it for certain things. I used it for Eye on the Prize, and there's a piece of me that kind of wishes I didn't actually. So I don't know. But I also used it for the Consider the Lilies painting. And the reason I did that was I wanted to get all of the veins in the leaves perfectly accurate. I also used it for the Ladies' Night painting, but not really for the font, just to kind of get an idea of the scale of the font, and also just to get an idea of the placement of the spiral, because I just didn't want to mar up the paper with millions of marks. So I designed it in Canva, and then I used the projector. And mind you, that still took me, with Canva, with the projector, over 40 hours of work to do. So if someone says to you like, well, why are you using those tools? Because that's not real art. Then you should say, okay, well then honestly, people shouldn't be able to use drills, and people shouldn't be able to use cars, and delivery people should have to like walk. People who build houses, they shouldn't get to use like, hydraulic nail guns. Surgeons, really, why are we using anesthesia? I think we should just give people bullets. So if someone wants to say to you that your artwork isn't artwork because you have figured out a way to use tools to create more artwork faster, then you tell them to go bite a bullet. Because I guarantee you they're not going to want to. So don't criticize yourself for using tools to make your artwork. If your thing is to draw, then draw. I feel like there are people out there who make it their life goal to make these super hyper realistic drawings, and they're not using a projector, and that's their thing, and that's fine. So just depends upon what you're trying to accomplish with your work. Don't be condemning yourself for doing something that actually more people than you think are using anyway. So yeah, absolutely love my projector. Not embarrassed to use it in the least. okay? That took me 40 hours. I am not kidding. It took more than that actually. And that didn't include the printing time and the delivery time and all that stuff, the communications, the planning. I mean, if I really encompass how many hours the whole thing took, the project start to finish, we're talking at least 60 hours. That is still using Canva, that is still using a projector. So, you know, you got to do what you got to do to get your artwork made. So last time I did my ArtCast, I wore my husband's least favorite dress because it's kind of my most favorite comfy cozy dress to wear in the studio. So this week I decided I would wear his most favorite dress. And this is an Umgees dress, I think it's called, that I scored off of eBay, again in my little $10 range. But it's really fun because it's got like kind of like a 50s look with the length is just kind of above the knees. And then it has like these flared sleeves and it has this embroidered detail, which I really like. And it's just very comfy. It's fun for the studio. If I'm mixing paints, I can't wear it because of the long sleeves and they would get into the paint. But depending upon what I'm doing, sometimes I'll wear it in the studio. It's more of a fiber arts outfit usually, but I thought I would just give my hubby a shout out because he's actually been super helpful lately as I do all of this stuff and do these podcasts and do all this work, and he's there making dinner and bringing me tea and buying me yarn. So I just want to give him a shout out because he is just really my best friend and my biggest supporter, and I just really love him. So I just want to say thanks to him. I was watching something recently that made me just think about what I might have for a rant today. And it was this individual who's an artist, and it is totally fine if this is your opinion, but she was saying that as an artist, the way the world is today, it is absolutely our responsibility to make a statement about what's going on and to make a difference with our artwork. And I totally think it's valid if you want to use your artwork or your platform or whatever you want to do to say whatever you want to say about the state of society, the world, whatever. I also think, though, that it's totally okay if you don't want to do that. I don't think that as an artist, you have to be pressured to make artwork that is somehow socially challenging. Not every musician makes songs that are socially convicting. Not every author writes books that are somehow socially impactful. We need all different types of books. We need all different types of music. We need all different types of dancing and plays. So I think in the same way, we need all different types of artwork. And some of it can be funny, and some of it can be beautiful, and some of it can be compelling, and some of it can be poignant, just like everything else in life. So my rant is, I disagree with you, ma'am. I do not believe that my artwork must be, that it's obligated to somehow call out all of the woes of society. I'm not really sure I am the best person to tell people about that. I haven't made the best choices in my life. I haven't been the best person. I don't know everything that there is to know. So I'm not sure I feel confident enough to get on a platform and tell people how to think. But if you ask me how I make the paintings I make, if you ask me where I got my outfit at, if you ask me what I like to listen to when I'm making art or what I want to drink or what materials I want to use, then I am all for it, and I will tell you why I do what I do and how I do it. But a lot of what I do is because it makes me happy. That makes me happy. It doesn't need to say anything. It just says, I exist. It just takes up space. Isn't that what those astronauts said, the lady astronauts? They said, take up space. And I thought, you know what? I agree. I'm here and I'm going to take up some space and I'm going to be okay with it. That leaves me feeling quite thirsty, which leads me to another top pick. I have discovered these things called True Lime packets. They make them in other flavors. They have lemon, grapefruit, lime, and orange that are unsweetened with the artificial sweeteners. And then they have other flavors that have artificial sweeteners as well. But I like the lime one the best. And I have struggled to drink water for years and years and years. And I had a terrible soda addiction. And I am so grateful. I have discovered these True Lime packets, and they make drinking water a snap. One packet of crystallized lime, it's all it is, crystallized lime, in 32 ounces of water, and I will drink 2 of these a day, pretty much every single day without struggle. I no longer drink soda like I used to. I still drink my pot of tea in the morning because my husband brings it to me, so I don't want to throw it away, but pretty much water is my go-to drink the rest of the time, and I can't even tell you what a relief it was. I spent years and years trying to figure out ways to drink water, to trick myself. I would put fruit in it, I would freeze it, I would do all this stuff, and at the end of the day, 1 lime packet. I get a box of like 1,000 of them for $27. It lasts me months and months and months. So cheaper than soda, cheaper than all of these electrolyte beverages people sell, way cheaper than all the powders that people sell. And this is my hack for drinking tons and tons of water. So if you say, oh my gosh, you look so young and you seem so vibrant and you seem so energetic, water. Drink some water. And if you can't, get yourself some True Lime. The grapefruit is really good. I love the orange. The lemon is really good. The lime just happens to be my favorite. So we already talked about how my hubby and I worked on the yarn wall. That was quite an adventure for us this week. He also took me to Joann's and Hobby Lobby to find some deals, which was fun. My husband decided to take me for an Easter drive on Sunday up to Speculator, even though that's not where the daffodils were growing. I said if you had gone down towards Albany, I think we would have seen more springtime, but we had a really good time and got to just hang out and chat, which was always fun for us to do. On Monday, we went and played Musical Monday at our friend Matt's house, and that's always a good time too. And we're off and running for the next week of adventures. So I think that covers our entire agenda. So if you made it this far, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate you. I love and appreciate every single person who follows, interacts, likes, shares, subscribes. It means so much to me to have you be a part of my journey. I hope that you can find your inner child this week and go be creative somewhere and share some joy with the world, because goodness knows it really needs that. See you next time.